A few months ago, I predicted that Ashanti would get pregnant with Nelly, and guess what? She did. 2023 was certainly a year where people just had to get back with their exes. You can call it spin the block season, if you will. I have my personal opinions on it, and I won't share those unless somebody wants me to. Just kidding. What do I know? But I certainly wasn't over the moon seeing our beautiful woman Ashanti with Nelly. But I was like, okay, I know something's gonna come from this. So I looked into her astrology. What month are we in? The end of November. I said keep an eye on her around Christmas, pregnancy, engagement, maybe something scandalous, that it was super activated but also looked very karmic and rough and turbulent. And boom, about like a week or two later, we see that they're on stage and they do a little pregnancy reveal. I was happy I was right, not happy that she was pregnant with this baby. Let me stop being a hater. No, the womp womp of it all is that the tweet under the pregnancy prediction said that I was wondering if they would break up as we get into 2024, and that Nelly's transits were kind of touching on really needing to heal due to possibly being triggered. A lot of the past resurfacing in some way around relationships, women likely to be in December as well. I feel like maybe my timing's off, but I feel like I saw a ridiculous amount of content of them throughout the summer and into the fall, and then as soon as they announced that they were pregnant, it was like they fell off the radar. And I did some Googling to see if maybe it just wasn't in my algorithm, but literally since about a month ago when the, I mean, granted it hasn't been that long, but when the pregnancy announcement happened, there really is no news articles after that besides that they like posted a FaceTime, or they did a live on New Year's Eve where he was somewhere. I don't know if he was performing or if he was just partying somewhere, and she's at home and they're just, you know, I don't know why we had to see it, but it was public. So looking at Ashanti's transits right now, what we have is a little bit of tension, a little bit of friction, nothing absolutely insane, but she does have an A++ reliability, so we know that this is an accurate birth chart, which is probably why the prediction was pretty easy to cast. But she has transiting Saturn in a square to her natal Mars. It is separating, so it already peaked, but that can be very frustrating. It's like stepping on the gas and the brakes at the same time, and it's also being reflected in transiting Mars squaring her natal Saturn. So she's kind of getting like hit on both ends. This one is a little bit quicker since Mars does move a little bit quicker, and because she's a day chart, Mars is going to be a little bit harder for her. Now the thing that's going to be frustrating, despite the fact that we're looking at the chart for literally today, is that as it goes through her first, second, and third house right here, this has a lot to do with self, identity, and then your money, possessions, values, and then your everyday life, things like that, getting access to basic needs, basically feeling stable. Is that one by one, as it's kind of bringing tension and trouble and action to these areas of the chart, it's going to square her very crowded, very public areas of her life. So as we get into March, into spring, which really is not that far away, Saturn is then going to be opposite her natal Venus, which is love, relationships, finances as well. Saturn and Venus aspects are not great if you're already having tension or frustrations with your partner. I also forgot to note that right now the South Node is going through her 10th house, which is like very public, her career sector. So she should be just prioritizing going inward and being private. So maybe she's just following her divine guidance of like not being so out there now that she knows that she's having a baby. But having the South Node go over your natal Pluto as well as your natal Sun is very much a change and a shift to the identity by forcefully having to let go of your detachments to the past, to old patterns, to old ways. It can kick some old familiar things up with like power and control dynamics, old habits, routines, cycles, etc. It's very karmic. And then at this point into the spring, into March, we're going to be having transiting Saturn now squaring her natal moon, which is home, family, motherhood, and nurturing energy, other women. It's like sensitivity, your emotions. So it's really creating a dry spell, a sense of like emotional poverty with the two planets you would ideally want going very well when you're pregnant, which is going to be your relationship, love, ease, pleasure, harmony, and then home, family, nurturance, emotional stability. Nelly at some point will also be experiencing that transit. Now his chart is like very unreliable, so there's really no reason to kind of look at it. However, we know that based on his actual birth date, he is a Gemini moon. We just don't know the degree. So Saturn is either going to square his sun as well a little bit earlier or a little bit after Ashanti, which again is that repression, that dry spell, that slowness, that pain, that challenge, that frustration to your home, family, emotional situation, as well as in his case, women. Now for him, he also has the transiting north node on his natal Chiron. The thing that's interesting about nodal transits is that when you Google them, or really when you Google any transit, they're most of the time going to tell you like, this is an incredible time for healing and alignment. The nodes are malefic by nature, and that's not to say that they only make bad things happen, but something like Chiron and the north node is less likely to be Nelly waking up on a Monday morning and saying, I'm gonna heal, and more likely to be a sequence of external events that kind of force him to have to face things inwardly. It can be a lonely time, it can certainly be a triggering time, it can be very isolating. And then through February into March as well, the nodes are going to be putting his Saturn in this like heavy pressure point energy that's incredibly uncomfortable and very karmic as well. It might have a lot to do with like debts that are due karmically for him. That's not to say either that like everything that's going on in his chart is bad or that her chart is entirely bad, but there's certainly tension. And because they both have mutable moons, Saturn is going to put the pressure on their ass at some point when it comes to home, family, emotions. Ashanti is also one of those people that's going to be having what is like the midlife crisis transit this year. It's going to be in a few months, but it's a Uranus opposition. Everyone has it at her age. Nelly will have it too, but I think she's older than him. I think he has it a year or two later, and that can be a really pivotal time where you wake up and you're like, I can no longer fake this. Like, I gotta be authentic. I gotta do what's right for me. It has a lot to do with separation and liberation. Now, I will say Ashanti might have her baby around mid-July, and it actually looks a lot more well-placed because she's going to be having transiting Jupiter, which is her most positive planet, in a very supportive exact position to her natal Venus, as well as an opposition to her natal moon. Opposition sometimes with Jupiter can blow things out of proportion or make them a little bit dramatic, and in that case, she's also going to have Mars, again, her most challenging planet, going through her 5th house of children and pregnancy. And it will both conjoin transiting Uranus as well as oppose her natal Uranus. So there might be something unexpected. She might have to get a C-section. There might be an early delivery. Granted, this is in July, so that's like right at the 9-month mark. There could just be like, chaos. Obviously, worst case scenario, we hope nothing happens to her, and we're wishing her a safe pregnancy, because worst case scenario with what's going on, we don't want her to experience a sense of loss or pain or heartbreak. But in this case, it does look a little chaotic, I have to say. Venus will be about to enter her 8th house that day. 8th house is sometimes like transformation of the body, pregnancy, birth, the life, death, rebirth process. There's going to be a new moon, a new beginning in her relationship sector on July 5th. At the same time, though, she will also have transiting Saturn square now her natal Neptune in the 12th house, and then she's going to have transiting Neptune opposite her natal Saturn. Granted, it won't be exact. Neptune's going to take a little bit longer to be directly opposite because it's going to go retrograde. Both of these can be very gloomy. They can have a lot to do with delusions, illusions, loss, grief. This can absolutely be like postpartum depression, or even just like, after you have your child, you can be a little delusional, whether that's worrying, anxiety, depression. Maybe those are the things that she might be dealing with. Hopefully it's just due to after having a healthy delivery. But I don't know, it just looks a little bit rough. This is all off of first glance, and I just get a feeling sometimes, like, I don't know, like even seeing them back together again, I was just kind of like, huh. And this is going to be her first child. It's Nelly's 3rd birth child. I believe he has 2 from his last relationship, and then 2 that he adopted, I think, from his late sister. But all of this can simply boil down to like the high of getting back with your ex. Oh my god, this baby is going to be a new chapter for us. It's going to bring us closer together, and like perhaps the illusion or fantasy that she was so excited for not materializing in the way that she imagined. And some of that may be muffled or due to the fact that it looks like Nelly has some things that he needs to resolve with himself internally, or the refusal to like grow and expand and invite this new experience into his life. There might be a little bit of a refusal, whether that be self-sabotage, oh my god, I wasn't expecting this, or like just general not meshing together perfectly. As we get past July and into the fall, he's going to have the South Node go over his natal Pluto too. That's the past, that's power and control dynamics, it's transformation, it's the need to not try to like fight your way through something and like push back with force, but rather learn what you need to learn from it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know. And I am wishing Ashanti and Nelly a healthy baby and a happy life.